Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Genuine Apbt. On today's episode, I want to speak about how we can truly preserve the American Pit Bull Terrier for generations to come in 2021. But before we get started, because of the subject matter, I want to put out a disclaimer. We don't condone, encourage, train, practice, give advice, breed, or sell any dogs in connection with any illegal activity, in particular dog fighting or dog matching. The second thing I want to say before we get started is that in this video you are going to hear our position in preserving the American Pit Bull Terrier. When I say our, I'm talking about me and the people that I associate with that have this family of dogs. I'm simply putting out what we believe is truly helping preserve the breed. I will also touch on what I do not believe is directly helping preserve the breed, and in doing that, I want you to know that I am not thinking of anyone in particular. If you find yourself on that side of the fence or practicing those things, I don't know that. I have no way of knowing that, and I really don't look into that because it's not what I do. I don't know anybody that subscribes to me. When I watch videos, I simply comment, and that's the extent of our relationship. It's pretty virtual, even though we're dealing with real people on both sides. It's social media relationships. They're two-dimensional. I've never met or spoken to on the phone with anyone that has commented on any of my videos or has emailed me. As a matter of fact, I don't answer a lot of the emails because they're related to the subject that I will be talking about that I disagree with, or I don't comment back sometimes when there's silly comments, but I leave them up on purpose so people could see that those comments don't even deserve a response or a reply. Okay, so here we go. I think at this point of the video, it would be a good idea to maybe go over what I think are maybe three camps or three ways of looking at preserving the American Pit Bull Terrier. Our view is that we want to preserve the American Pit Bull Terrier for generations to come in a way that would be against or to protect us against what I see as the strongest group against the breed, and that's the animal activists. These people, and they come in different forms. There's different organizations. You guys all know them. But these people are strong. They have a lot of money. They have lobbyists. They have lawyers. They have a lot of organizations on their side. And like I've said before, they have the ear and they have the podium of legislation, whether it's state or federal. And they are continuously working to eliminate the breed or to make the ownership of the breed extremely, extremely difficult. And so we want to preserve the breed against that because we believe that to be the biggest attack. There's another group of people that would say that you can't preserve this breed if you do not fight it, if you do not match it, if you do not continuously test for gameness in the pit, if you do not breed generation after generation, best to best, the dogs that are showing gameness, or some amount of it, and other traits associated with this practice. And then there's the group of people that would say that no, they don't want to be involved in the historical part of this breed, which is dog fighting, or the illegal part of this breed, and that's good. But they would also say that you have to test the dog to the very minimum in hog hunting because it is a physical activity that tests the dogs to a high caliber. And if you don't do that, then you're actually breeding or owning or selling untested dogs. So we've kind of defined the terms of how some people would identify or define preserving the American Pit Bull Terrier. What I want to do now is kind of look into each one of those and see if they're truly preserving the American Pit Bull Terrier or hindering the future of the dog. And some of them might be pretty obvious, but I think it's important to talk about them. It's really important to talk about them. And again, if the video rubs you the wrong way, if you disagree with it, I'm not here to please people. I never have. The channel was never created in an effort to gain a lot of subscribers or anything like that. It was purely about the dog and the preservation of it. So we're continuing with that. So what I believe, as far as our program, if we are going to defend the breed and protect the breed against its biggest opponent, which are these animal activists and the organizations set against the dog, against our dogs, we want to create a dog that can be incorporated into today's society. A dog that can be a family dog, can be an athletic dog, can compete in activities sponsored by some of these registries. It could be weight pulling, wall climbing, treadmill racing, I don't know, conformation. There's just tons and tons of stuff that you can use the dog for. We, for decades already, have tried to preserve those traits. And I've said it in another video, the traits that we hold the highest and the traits that we breed for and the traits that we try to preserve in the breed are 3 particular traits and then one more trait that we think is going to preserve the breed. What the traits are is, and they're in no particular order. They are all important. They all have to be there. One of them is temperament. Extremely important how the dog interacts with people, how stable the dog is, how trainable the dog is. The second trait, or another one of the traits, is intelligence. The dog has to be an intelligent dog. He has to be trainable. He has to be adaptive. He has to be able to think certain situations, bark in certain situations, protect in certain situations, even bite if somebody comes in the house, and then at the same time be goofy silly with people that you introduce them to. And then the third trait, or another trait, is health. The dog has to be extremely healthy. And I'm talking their sight, their heart, their shoulders, their elbows, their hips, their skin, their teeth, their bite, their hearing, all of that. All of that is extremely, extremely important to us, and we go through that with the fine-tooth comb. It matters to us tremendously. Another thing is the actual build of the dog, the structure of the dog. And let me tell you why I say that. I think a lot of people are saying that if you breed and you don't test the dog, at least for hog hunting, at the very, very minimum, then you're really just making a show dog. And if we look at the history of show dogs like the German Shepherd and the English Bulldogs and Boxers and Mastiffs and everything else, yes, they have ruined them. They have gone after certain traits or certain ways that the dog looks that pleases people in the show ring, and it's actually changed the dog in its structure. The noses got more pushed in. Maybe the German Shepherd got slanted on the rear, and so did the Doberman and the Boxer. And there's been a lot of physical changes to the dog, but I think if you are staying true to the structure of these dogs and competing at a high level, as far as conformation, you're not going to fall into that because you're going to hold true to the historical composition of the dog. And so to say that if you're strictly going for conformation, you're going to ruin the dog, I don't think it's true. And it's only unique to the American Pit Bull Terrier because we love the way the American Pit Bull Terrier is structured, and we believe that the guidelines for conformation are still holding true to that. So to say that is kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I don't think so. I don't think it's going to fall into the same deal that the other breeds have fallen into. I understand that there's some of you that might say, well, what about function? You know, if you're just breeding or competing or using the dog for conformation, then function goes out the door. And I've said in other videos, I think it's impossible to compete at a high level in conformation, like, for example, ADBA, to get up there. And I'm talking to really take a dog that's in great condition. You know, you're not going to be able to put a dog in that type of condition if the dog is lazy, if he doesn't like to work, if he's not intense, if he's not healthy, if he's not structurally sound. It's not going to happen. And so I think they go hand in hand. The dog has to function in order to achieve a condition that is going to compete at that high level in conformation. So I would totally disagree with that. I would disagree with anybody that says if you are competing in conformation, you're not really working the dog. He ceases to be a working dog. I don't think so. The dog's got to work in order for it to have a chance at winning something like that. So now looking at the ones that would say that you cannot preserve the American Pit Bull Terrier if you do not fight him, if you do not test for historical gameness. I mean, I know it's obvious to some, but there are still some that do that. And I would say that you are pulling at the other side of preserving the dog. You're actually giving tons and tons of ammunition. You're giving data and information that these animal activists are going to use when they stand before the lawmakers trying to persuade them to eradicate the breed, to get rid of the breed. So I can't think of anything else besides pride and to please yourself only, to see if your yard is producing game dogs, historically game dogs, and dogs that are performing in the box, you know. And so I mean, these are people that have just, I guess, looked at their life and said, hey, it's okay. You know, I'm willing to lose everything in order to find out if what I've got is a historical game dog, you know, and a dog that can perform in fighting. You've determined that it's worth it, I guess, to lose your job, you know, your freedom, money, your actual yard of dogs or whatever dogs you have. And it's pretty intense to think about that. And I don't see how that, you know, preserving the breed would fit into that equation, you know, because they're going to kill your dogs, most likely. The Michael Vick, you know, re-socializing the dogs, that's pretty rare. That usually doesn't happen. They usually get rid of all the dogs in a yard when they catch somebody or they bust somebody. So your dogs will be gone, and then the damage that it does for future dogs, again, because of the information that you're helping to provide, is unmeasurable. I mean, it is absolutely damaging to the preservation of the breed. So you're certainly not contributing to the preservation of the breed. And what you're really trying to do, because of the consequence and the legality of it, you're trying to bring a paradigm that was, you know, pre-1970 into 2021. It's impossible to do. It's absolutely impossible to do. And if you just kind of sit back and think about it, that's the definition of insanity. When you keep practicing the same thing and expect a different outcome, the only outcome is the outcome that has been around since, you know, the last 15, 20 years. It's a felony in every state, and it hurts the breed. It hurts the breed. It absolutely, I think, will be the biggest contributor to the destruction of the breed. So, yeah. And then you have the ones that say, hey, okay, at the very least, I will not fight the dogs, but at the very least, you are, you know, producing non-tested dogs if you are not hog hunting the dogs. Look, I have nothing against hog hunting. I've expressed that. Maple and Zephyr are due to be involved in that really soon. I'm just trying to find somewhere where I don't have to drive halfways across the country to do it. I've got way too many things going on, but I'm all for it. I'm all for testing them to that level. Nothing against that. But in reality, I don't think that's an essential practice to preserve the breed. Here, let me give you an example. Denver, Colorado, right? They repealed the breed-specific legislation that outlawed the dogs in that city, which is great. But can you imagine if I would have had the opportunity to sit before the city council on that last night that they were going to decide right before they went in to vote, and I would have got up there and I would have said, hey, look, this is what I stand for. I want to breed a dog that has great temperament, great health. You're able to, have them in today's society. They're great with kids. They're great with all people. And I would explain all the beauty of the American Pit Bull Terrier. And then I would whip out photos of my dog hog hunting. Do you really think that would persuade somebody with power to repeal a ban on the dog? Absolutely not. It would not. So I love the hog hunting aspect of it, but I don't see it as an essential necessity to preserve the breed. Now, since it's legal and we're entitled to it, by all means, go for it if you can do it, because these dogs, I think, would do great, and they were bred to be catch dogs, and so that's wonderful and that's great. But I don't think it's essential, again, to preserve the breed. And look, at the very least, what you're going to get, or at the most, what you're going to get, is you're going to get to see if your dog is hog game. Do not get it confused. It does not tell you if your dog could be historically game, and why would you want to know anyways, right? I've said that before. Why would you even want to know if your dog would be historically game? It's not going to preserve the breed. It's not going to help it in any way. It's just going to satisfy your ego, and I'm not about that, Okay, so that's it. That's really what I have to say about preserving the breed. Another thing that I wanted to add just briefly before I end the video, I want to talk about the ethics needed to be a reputable dog breeder. We check the hips, the shoulders, the internal function of the organs before we breed any dog, the male and the female. And we also, with every puppy, will give you a health guarantee for a certain amount of days. And that health guarantee covers you if the dog gets sick and you take it to the vet, and the vet can certify, understand that, can certify that the puppy was sick, or it's connected, or his illness is connected, or its illness is connected to something to do with the breeding or something to do with the breeder, then absolutely, you can bring the puppy back and you will get credit for another dog. But, that I just have to let you know, we don't, for you to get a puppy from us, it's really, really difficult. And it's not because I have an inner circle and I keep all the dogs and, I'm a private, guy. No, it's nothing like that. It's just we're extremely, extremely picky on who gets our dogs. There's a video done on that. You can go check it out. I put up a video on that. It's just we want to be sure who is going to house the dogs, how are you going to keep the dogs, what experience you have, how are you going to manage the dog, the planning ahead, have you done enough research on the dog, what plans you have for it. I mean, the American Pit Bull Terrier is a very unique and particular breed. It stands alone, and it requires a breeder to do that. So I just wanted to share that. And just really quick, I usually don't like to include things like this in the video, but I got an email recently, and I know you've seen them in some of the comments. And look, we know who it is, man. We know it's somebody that's really, really south of the border, and it's funny. The person continuously, every video, I don't think there's one video that he's done that he doesn't talk about himself, not really about the dogs, but about him, how good he is, how awesome he is, how great he is for the breed, what he's produced, what he's done. It's all about him. But look, don't fall into this, you guys. It's really easy to figure him out, man. It's not even junior college business 101. He creates a problem, and then he makes himself the solution for the problem, right? There's no more good dogs. Nobody else is breeding real American Pit Bull Terriers. You got to buy it from me if you want the real deal. And I only sell to these kind of people because I'm the best, I'm the greatest. And whenever you hear somebody say that, it's usually because they're trying to build themselves up, because they're not. They don't even trust their own words. They don't believe the stuff that they're talking about, but they're trying to convince you. And so it's a bunch of smoke, you know. That's what it is. It's smoke. Don't fall for it. If this guy was a legitimate breeder, he had a perfect opportunity, man. Somebody showed him a video of one of his dogs failing miserably, complete and utter failure. I would have taken the dog back. I would have been super polite. I would have been embarrassed. I I don't know, man, if I would have even kept my yard if one of my dogs would have done that. Because that is the ultimate failure. To have your dog mounted to that level. And I know there's other, you know, older dogmen that kind of back them up, but I think you're being blind. I think those dogmen ought to really take a serious look and go, yeah, man, that was an utter failure. Look, if you back him up, you know, or you think that he's not a bad breeder, would you have taken that dog? I guarantee you wouldn't. You wouldn't have taken him. And the only reason, again, that I'm doing this is because, you know, he made it real personal with me. He emailed me. He was extremely crazy on the email. I didn't, you know, I think I responded once, just letting him know that I could figure out somebody's MO, man. I know how to do that. You know, I simply said, look, I know exactly who you are. And the person responded with something elementary stupid. You know, the person said, I'm not this individual. And he said the person's name. He says, I'm actually in the United States. So, you know, it's really easy to figure stuff like that out. You know, when the person voluntarily tells you the person's name and then says, I'm in the US when you didn't bring that up. And then the person called me something that is only used in the Spanish language. So I'm thinking it's a female that's emailing me on his behalf. You know what I mean? But yeah, we'll leave it at that. I just, you know, be careful with this guy. He's a complete and utter failure, man. I don't know. I don't know where it's coming from or why he's sending that stuff to me, but I don't know. I just thought I'd talk about it. I don't make my videos about this kind of junk usually, but it's about preserving the breed, right? And I don't think he's preserving the breed. I don't think he's an ethical breeder. Buy your dogs here in the United States. Go see where you're buying them from. Go see the parents, the grandparents, the great-grandparents. Sit, talk to the breeder, see his dogs. Look at all the puppies. Don't buy dogs that are, you know, that you can't see and verify and then get shipped to you and then you get a piece of junk like the stuff that's coming from there. All right, guys. Thank you again for watching this long video, and consider all the information. It's for the preservation of our dogs, and like always, know them, love them, and raise them responsibly.